Yes. Every time I get on a Patao and the driver, because I can text in Patao using Nepali, location machu or, Babar Mahal, Agadi Ho, whatever. And they see me and they're like, are you not Nepali? I'm like, no. And they always ask, how long have I been here? And I know they're looking for days, maybe weeks, months at most. And then I say, oh, Teen Barsabayo. And they're like, what? I think for a lot of people, Boda has that, again, kind of shanti feeling. But it just, no matter what worry you have, if you're in Boda, it just kind of goes away. And that smell, it gets deeper than your nose. So I think for me, whenever I smell Boda Kodup, it's like, I think every relationship, no matter what, is different. And it gives you something. It teaches you about, a different type of love. Love is so multifaceted. It's not just, oh, I love you in this way, I love you in that way. It's Miro Jiwan ko sab banda ramro kata, miro maya ko kata ho. You don't have to boil your water in America. If you want water, you just go to the tap and fill it and drink it. Here, you have to think at least 12 hours in advance, boil it, let it cool, put it in a filter. So although that's such a simple example, it points to a reality that you have to typically work even for these very minor things, these very kind of life or death things, if we're talking water. Being white in a country that already has skin tone based prejudices, right? If you are lighter skin versus if you are darker skin, I see on, I think this is more of an Indian thing, kind of when you see the advertisements for wives or, son-in-laws, it always describes a type of skin tone. Everyone can learn from each other, no matter where you're from, even if you're from the same place. If you're able to share your thoughts, your feelings, I think we can always learn from each other, no matter what.
Hello and welcome to Real Story Time. Today, once again, me Sujata, along with our team, we are here in Real Story Time with our new guest. In Real Story Time, we call guests, have communication with them. We dive deep into the topic which they are expert as. We try to find out how the journey shaped them as a person, what are the struggles behind them, and a lot of more. Having said that, I would like to say don't forget to subscribe our channel and also don't forget to write the name of the guest that you would like to see in our program so that we can add value to you because we see the lens of the audience also, because we believe that the value should be created mutual. Today in Real Story Time, we are truly honored to welcome the international guest. Yes, you heard it right. She is really special because her love for Nepal is truly visible, and you will be knowing this after seeing this full episode. Yes, she was the girl who was born in America and she completed her master's degree from Cambridge University, London. And she chose Nepal to complete her PhD, and later on she fell in love with a Nepalese guy. She is none other than Phoenix Kenney. So today with Phoenix, we will be talking about the love, culture, and a lot of challenges which she is going through or she is managing and overcoming it, and also regarding her PhD thesis finding. So what is it like to, be with the youth people and talk with them regarding the aspects of the countries and lots of factors which is affecting the country right now. So she have done very good research and finding on that. So we will be talking with her about all of these things. So I will try to mix up few little Nepali with her because she doesn't speak that good Nepali. I'll try to make it out of it. So let's not be late. Let's welcome our today's guest. Let's welcome her. Hello, Phoenix.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good today. A little excited, a little nervous, but happy to be here.
Yes. First thing, we would like to thank you for being here. Our team is excited, along with me. We are excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much.
So I guess this is our first podcast here in Nepal.
Yes.
Okay. So, knowing or diving deep into who the Phoenix is, Phoenix is, I keep on mispronouncing your name because
Okay.
your name have O, and I don't know how come we don't spell the
Where does
O.
it go?
Yes.
I know.
So it's like, big challenge for me.
It's
I
okay.
hope you won't mind.
My in-laws actually use a nickname for me because Phoenix, I know, is a very hard word. So you can call me Feeny, which is like the roti. So Feeny is my
Okay.
Nepali nickname.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope I could. Yeah. And then, okay, before starting, I would like to know little about your childhood. What kind of child were you?
That's a good question. I grew up in Vermont, which is in French, it means green mountains. So when people talk about Nepali gaos, I feel like I grew up in kind of an American gao. Big open green spaces, green hills, rivers, lakes, a lot of cows as well. So I think I had very much a barefoot childhood, which now when I think about maybe being a mom one day, I feel like the best thing I want to yell at my kid is just go outside because I spent all of my time outside growing up in a very, very beautiful place.
Mhm. So, being here in Nepal, seeing the structure of the family, and how do you feel connected with yours? Do you have the similarities, while seeing the Nepalese culture and the family? Because for most of the Nepalese and what we, have seen when it comes to the foreigners, the family structure is completely different, and we don't feel like, you do have rules and regulations in family. And the other last day when you told me the few things that you couldn't share it to your families, and oh my god, is it like that to them also? That's what I was feeling. So what do you think the cultural difference that here in Nepal and being back American, right? How do you feel that?
Yeah, well, the house I grew up in, it was just my parents and my older brother. My extended family, although they're my family, kind of the close-knit ties that you see in a Nepali extended family, whether or not, grandma lives with you or your aunt and uncle just live down the way, you visit them all the time. I very much grew up in the nuclear family, what it's known as. And I think to compare that to the Nepali structure of how parents treat their children, my parents support me outright in anything I need, want, and that's been true since I was a baby. Even now, I think they will always see me as their baby. So it's very much parents give to their children, and then if their children are fortunate enough to become parents, then they keep kind of passing it forward, passing it forward. And in Nepal, I feel like as much as you pass forward onto the next generation, you also have a sense of obligation and responsibility to pass it back to your own parents. In old age, you care for them, you're their direct retirement fund because they've been giving you money for education, you're their social security. And so I feel like as an American child, at least within my own family, I don't have a lot of responsibility to my own parents other than living my best life, my happiest life, really working hard to achieve my dreams. That's all I owe them. Versus Nepali children, adult children, I think feel a lot more pressure.
Yes. Yes, that's the, quick understanding what individual could have, right? So, being studying in Cambridge, right? Being the American, growing up, in America, and big cities, big life, right? New York, and this, that is so fascinating for most of the Nepalese over here. All of that, it's something which you already have, right? But still you chooses to be here in Nepal. What made you choose this path?
Wow. In order to really answer that question, I have to go back into the mind and body of 20, I guess 19-year-old Phoenix, who first chose to come to Nepal for one semester of her bachelor degree. And it's so funny when I look back at that because since that moment, my feelings and thoughts towards Nepal are so complex. But in that moment, all I wanted was to see Everest. At that point in my life, I was obsessed with mountaineering stories. I grew up under a torn out photo of Everest from a magazine on my kitchen wall. So Everest just had this huge place in my heart, and I had to see it. I had to understand Sherpa culture, Sherpa women, how do they manage the family responsibilities on top of their husbands or sons or male counterparts in these really dangerous jobs. So that was why I came here in February 2015. And as we all know, in April 2015, a major earthquake struck the country. And that moment, 10 years on, is the moment I keep going back to as the moment that set me on a completely new trajectory, one that I don't even think I knew I was on at that time.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel that people are surprised seeing your decisions? Yeah.
Yes.
The Nepalese people or people from the West, whoever is in your circle, they might be thinking, oh my God, why are you still there? All right. Do you think that people are surprised seeing this?
Yes. Every time I get on a Patao and the driver, because I can text in Patao using Nepali, location machu or, Babar Mahal, Agadi Ho, whatever. And they see me and they're like, are you not Nepali? I'm like, no. And they always ask, how long have I been here? And I know they're looking for days, maybe weeks, months at most. And then I say, oh, Teen Barsabayo. And they're like, what? I think it goes against a lot of expectations, especially when they find out that my long-term partner is Nepali. They think that, oh, in that situation, you have a ticket out. He has a ticket out. And we kind of joke like, no, he's my ticket in actually to stay here. But I think from a Western perspective, people understand my decision to spend a long time in Nepal a bit better. Perhaps because, again, it has that romantic view, the mountains, Everest. And I think that has an attraction to Western mindsets, or at least some folks in the West who kind of want to shirk the responsibilities of owning a house and working up in the corporate ladder, those kind of expectations of the American dream. I think Nepal has this very romantic, rosy. I saw something today about Sundar Shanta Nepal, peaceful, beautiful Nepal. I think that when people hear that that's where I stay, that's immediately what they picture.
You are emotional American.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so how is the experience being in Nepal shaping you as a person?
Oh my gosh. Okay, just as to answer why Nepal, I have to go back 10 years. I think I need another 10 years to really understand that, because the change is constant. I know from yesterday, last week, I am constantly changing how I see myself, how I see my immediate community, how I see the nation. Obviously, we're in a major time of political change. So I feel like myself and everything around me is constantly changing. So I would need some time to reflect on that. But I think personally, coming from America, which is very a tight culture in terms of being on time and kind of, showing up always when, if you say 2, it means 2, not even 201. That creates kind of a type A personality. And then Nepal is almost the exact opposite in that kind of type B camp. And I don't necessarily see myself as a very, very strict type A, but in comparison, I think over time I've had to learn to, let go, be a bit more relaxed, show up 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late if you really want to push it. So I've noticed that I've had to let go of a lot of those expectations. And although that sometimes is stressful to do, over time, you feel that lightening a bit on your shoulders of, oh, it's okay if I get stuck in traffic. Everyone understands.
Okay. So deep down, what do you feel connected with the most when it comes to staying here in Nepal?
That's a really hard question. To be honest, I think I more so feel quite disconnected because even though I have this so strong emotional feeling, sense of wanting to offer what I have to offer, be it my gained knowledge or my time or just my effort, I think when people see me, they see me for just what I look like, a white girl, an American. And that kind of limits me in feeling this deep sense of connection. And the people who have been willing to see me beyond that, the connections we build are so strong. I don't think I have ever experienced kind of that real sense of community, more so than I've felt that with my community here in Kathmandu.
Any kind of specific moment which trigger you as like, this is my home, or that can be my home?
Man. Well, when I first came to Nepal in 2015, I stayed in Boda. So the smell of Boda Kodup is
Boda
Boda.
Kodup.
I know I don't say it very right, but Boda Kodup.
No, it's completely fine.
That is, to me, I think that's one of my earliest memories, being in Nepal, waking up to that smell. Now in Boda, I think for a lot of people, Boda has that, again, kind of Shanti feeling, but it just, no matter what worry you have, if you're in Boda, it just kind of goes away. And that smell, it gets deeper than your nose. So I think for me, whenever I smell Boda Kodup, it's like,
Oh my God. Many of the Nepalese people who haven't, even realized this, it could be, some kind of dive into the feelings, right? So the first time when you land here in Nepal, what was the first, remembrance that you have? It might be the first thing that you saw, or might be the first smell that you have, or, the first thing what you see and what you feel about that, the first glance.
So the first night I spent in Nepal was in Parping, actually, and I got sick. So that's really, unfortunately, when I look back at the first 24 hours, it was being sick, which I think is, at the time, was probably true for a lot of foreign visitors. But now I think people can go however long they want without getting sick. But yeah, I think because being in Parping at that time and then never going back, I think I only went to Daksin Kali sometime 2 years ago. And so that 8-year period at that time, Parping was so full of fields and open, and Farping, yeah, out kind of down at south and west. And then going back 8 years later, it almost felt like, wait, are we in the right place? So I think it's this experience of change as well. Looking back at those first days, what I saw, I can't really see now in this kind of, I don't want to say sad, because I think it's just the reality. But the first thing I saw, the first thing I felt, you kind of can't see and feel that today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, let's go into your love life now. Okay, so you choose Nepal to be your home, right? Beyond all the cultural differences and miles far with your parents, you still choose to manage to stay in this country, because we have seen a lot of cultural differences when it comes to the people from different nationalities, especially. So there are many relationships which are into struggling phase. We have seen that. I've seen a lot of my friends who is going through this. You seeing all of these things, still you feel like you like, this is something which is not only love, it's a future, right? So what is that essence that you felt on this relationship?
Like, such a good question, because I think, especially knowing how fast from when we met in December of 2022 to now, it hasn't quite been 3 years. It's almost 3 years. And I've never once questioned, oh, are we moving too fast? Is this the right thing to do? From the first time I met him, I felt like he was sparkling in the sun. It just felt...
Oh my God, it's like a movie.
It's like a movie. Yeah. I should make a movie. But it felt simultaneously that butterfly feeling of very excited, and also like, grounded. Like,
was it different from the other relationship that you have ever in your life?
Absolutely. But, I think every relationship, no matter what, is different, and it gives you something. It teaches you about, a different type of love. Love is so multifaceted. It's not just, oh, I love you in this way, I love you in that way. It's people give you all different sorts of experiences of love. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But with my partner, it feels like love is just the starting point. Like you said, it's not just about, oh, I love you. It's about the life I can build with you is beyond my wildest dreams. And days are hard. Some days are easy. But no matter what, by the end of that day, I know we're working towards something bigger than us. So I think it's this feeling that, okay, it's you and it's me, and together, wow, we're amazing.
That's so good to hear. Yeah. So is it 3 years that you are married?
3 years we've been together, which is funny because I can almost go back on the dates. I landed in Kathmandu on November 30th, 2022 for my PhD fieldwork. The first event I went to as like doctoral researcher, I met him. So again, I feel like everything happens for a reason. And less than a year later, we were engaged. And then this year, we're going to go be court married, which is a really interesting dynamic of the legal expectations and the social expectations.
Okay, so what's your plan in the marriage? Are you planning to do it over here in Nepal or in USA?
That is a question you'll have to ask us in about 6 months.
Okay.
Because to be totally honest, it's really difficult. I feel so fortunate that I've met people from different countries who are married to Nepali, whether it's American man, French women married to Nepali woman, Nepali man. And it feels like everyone does something slightly different. But when it comes to the actual wedding, most people have either 2 weddings or 0 weddings. And I just want one. And I want it to be a celebration of us coming together, which kind of goes into this mixing of culture question. I say that American culture and Nepali culture are almost completely opposites. And if you want to find compromise somewhere in the middle, that kind of looks like neither culture. It loses any real value to either side. So having to figure out that middle ground is, and also being here, I feel like, not that it's a competition, but I feel like the Nepali side often wins out. Nepali culture is very strong. It's very visual. It's very something that is practiced, very ritualized, versus American culture, at least the way I connect to it, is much more about values. Mm-hmm. And it's also much more about finding your own path through that culture, right? So the tradition in terms of dress, let's just use that as an example.
Yes.
The tradition in the West is a white dress, and that is to symbol purity, virginity of the woman. Mm-hmm. The tradition here in Nepal, because my partner is Newar, is the very, very vibrant gold, red. I don't even know if you'd call it a sari, because I feel like it's slightly different from a sari with the 2 pieces, the shirt, the belt. To me, neither really would be an expression of myself. Mm-hmm. So because I come from a Western culture, people are already kind of asking that question of, okay, this wedding tradition doesn't feel like me. So what could we do that would be fun and different, that would feel more like myself? I haven't seen that so much yet in Nepal. Mm-hmm. So as much as I don't want to show up in a white dress, I don't want to show up in a red sari. So then it's like, okay, well, what the heck could be in the middle?
You shall go with the pink one.
Go with the I want gold, to be honest. Yes. I feel like that would be, because I also think
it's elegant and yes, it goes well these days.
Yeah, and everyone wants to look like a princess. So I feel like gold would be very princess. So you knew exactly.
True. Yes, and as we are talking about the cultures, so here in Nepal, we do have culture that we have to stay with our parents, right? It's not like after the child is 18, then you can go or you can settle down a family. We don't do that, like basically most of us, right? So, like, how do you see, yourself staying with your to-be in-laws, right? I might, have put it in a right way because you might be having the experience these days, right? So what are the experience and what are the, cultural exchanges that you find challenging at?
I think you stole my diary because this is probably the best question to ask me today. I'm kind of in this experiment right now, which started due to the protests and the curfew and the fears of safety. For that time period, I moved in with my in-laws because I couldn't be alone. I live by myself, and I've lived by myself for almost 10 years, since I was about 20. And I am very surprised, actually, at my experience living there, which is so funny because during my research, I was talking to someone about this 2 years ago, and they said by living with family, you actually gain a lot of freedom. And at that time, I thought, absolutely not. You're completely wrong. Now, what I'm actually seeing is maybe the person who told me this was somewhat right. I don't have to worry about the kitchen being stocked with food. If I don't want to do my laundry, someone will do my laundry, and hopefully I'll pay back, right? By living with other people, you can share the domestic responsibilities, especially if there's someone in that household who is already very, very used to doing those things. So why my goal is not to add on to her plate. The little bits I do still is less than what I was doing when I was living alone, right? I was making my breakfast, lunch, dinner, cleaning, everything. So I found this really strange exchange of comforts and discomforts, which I never expected. For example, when I live on my own, I never have eyes looking at me or, okay, why do you do this? Why do you wear that? But at the same time, I have a lot of loneliness. And if you look at America, you see kind of this loneliness epidemic that's been going on for a long time. So now when I live with my in-laws, I feel no sense of loneliness, but I've exchanged that for multiple sets of eyes now looking at what I'm doing, asking what I'm eating, asking how I'm dressing, and perhaps initially it feels very stressful and tense of, I'm being watched like a hawk. But actually, as I'm starting now that some time has passed and we're starting to find our new patterns, it's actually just love. And that's exactly what my mother-in-law said to me of, I just love you. You're like my daughter. So it's, what are you eating? What are you dressing? It's not a critique necessarily. It's making sure that you're happy, that you're healthy, that you're being safe.
Mm-hmm. That is so good to find, some kind of a space where you feel like, safe, secure, and good, and you don't feel lonely. That is so good. But I hope, because this kind of feelings, it keeps on, because what I have seen is freedom is the essential factor that people will be always wanting. And I believe that you would be able to, accept this in a longer run, at least. Yeah.
The one thing that I think we're still figuring out is like I said, when we started, I grew up in this very rural place, very naturally beautiful. I had space right outside of my house that I could, run outside barefoot. And because I had that experience as a child and now value it so deeply, I want to make sure that my children one day have that experience. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that my husband also kind of had that experience growing up in his home in the late 80s, early 90s. But because of that urban sprawl, his house no longer has fields around it, no longer has the places that he could play cricket. Now it's all houses and a lot more traffic. So the question is, okay, how can we both ensure that the values we want to instill in our next generation has that? And my hope is that one day I can have kind of a Gauko life here in Nepal. I love Godwari, I love Budinilkanta, I love Senza. So how to balance kind of, okay, this is his house, he grew up it will one day truly be his, with also kind of my ideal home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in context of love, as we are discussing about it, what do you discover the love that you felt over here in Nepal, and if you have to compare the love between your home country and here in Nepal, what do you find the major difference?
So this is a really interesting question, and it's been raised to me before. So the first time I went to a family function with my husband's kind of lateral generation, not the olders, not the youngers. It was kind of his cousins. Mm-hmm. And someone outright asked me, you come from a culture of divorce. So how can I be sure you're not going to divorce my bai? And I was a little bit shocked by that question because personally, I don't come from a culture of divorce. My parents have been married 44 years. My aunt and uncle have been married almost 50 years. All of the adults that I looked up to, all my role models, they've been in long-term loving relationships. So that's my example of love. And I see that here as well, in which if I pick you, I will pick you every day. It's no longer a question of, ooh, should we not? We had this fight, so what does that mean? Is there an out? I think it actually is this amazing feeling of there is no out. This is all we get, and we have to put our hardest work to make sure that that lasts. And I think having divorce as an option, it kind of allows people, okay, this is too hard, I don't want to work anymore. At the same time, I do see it as being a very valid option for folks in dangerous situations, abusive situations. So I think both cultures can kind of look to each other in that way and see what divorce does offer and also kind of what true commitment offers over time.
Yes. While talking about the differences in the country, still I like to add up. It's not about only the, cultural differences. People might not fit together when it comes to, time. And as you grow up, right, your, validation and perception about things might change and values will change and divorce happen. So, for especially, someone who is choosing to be in a different country, like, cross cultural, borders, right? So, for this kind of relationship, I think it might be quite, challenging also. And what I would like to add up is it might be challenging. You still choose to manage. Was there any kind of doubt on this? Or sometime, at a moment, people, got some kind of trigger, right? Did you ever feel that kind of? And if yes, how did you overcome that?
So most days, no. And then because most of the time we relate to each other very nicely, the moments when that happens, it feels like they sneak up on us. And it often feels like, oh, this is such a silly thing that we're fighting on. I'll give you a very annual example, which I joked to my husband the other day, like, we're coming up on our annual fight.
Okay.
Last Dasai, I was with his group of friends, who is now my group of friends. I will say, I will claim them as my own as well. I love them. And we had been together all day playing cards, we had done barbecue. And at the end of the night, I don't eat a lot of meat. And they had ordered some food that was mostly meat. So I ordered a separate thing that was vegetarian from a different place, and it came on Patao. So they were over there eating their food, and I was here eating my food. And one of them tried to grab my food, and I no, you can't have this. This is mine. You have all of that food. My husband got so mad at me. I don't think that's the only time. Of course, we've had little tiffs here and there, raised voice, but that was the only time we screamed at each other. And it really kind of unveiled to us, most of the time we don't have to deal with our cultural differences. And then when they come up, we don't expect them. They're typically over something quite minor, like naan, right?
Yes.
You shouldn't be having a screaming fight over naan. So I think it always tends to surprise us in a way, and we're never quite prepared.
Yes. So how did you overcome that? What happened after that?
We threw the food out the window and just were like, okay, we're done with this moment. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're very emotional people.
Okay.
So let's see what happens this to say. If we have another very silly fight, we can talk about it in the next podcast.
Yeah, sure. We can do that. Okay, so now I would like to add a bit humor. I would want you to say, okay, the most beautiful story of my life is my love story in Nepali.
Okay, let's see if I can do this in one take. Miro jiwan ko sabbanda ramro kata, miro maya ko kata ho.
Okay, you said it perfectly.
We practiced. The issue, I think, with my Nepali is my vocab's quite okay. I knew all of those words, but my accent,
Yes.
how I speak in English is the exact same way I speak in Nepali. So that's my next kind of goal, is to overcome that.
You know what? For me, I like the foreigners who kind of keep their accent and still try to speak in Nepali, and it sounds so good for me.
Okay. You
At
might
least
be
me.
the only one. We'll see.
Okay, so let's talk about the reality now. So we dive down into your love about, choosing to be here in Nepal. Now, after being here in Nepal and after choosing this life, don't you feel challenges every day seeing and facing? Because in your country, right, the roads are clean. It's not, dirt, you won't even find a dust, right? And the politics of the country is stable and people there could have good earning, good job, and still you are here in Nepal, fighting with like a system. I had seen your post also, I'll come to that later. So don't you find it challenging? How is it in real?
Absolutely. I think you don't have to boil your water in America. If you want water, you just go to the tap and fill it and drink it. Here, you have to think at least 12 hours in advance, boil it, let it cool, put it in a filter. So, although that's such a simple example, it points to a reality that you have to typically work even for these very minor things, these very kind of life or death things, if we're talking water. So, I think the daily challenges, I notice I get quite tired when I'm constantly going up against them myself, right? Like I said, I was living by myself. I was boiling and filtering my own water. I was carrying up my gas canister when it emptied. Everything I was responsible for. So it was exhausting. So like I said, I'm in this experiment now, kind of living with my sasus. And it's this freedom, like I said, my sasus, my sasura, my sasuma.
Sasuma and Sasura.
Sasura. So it's again this freedom because I don't have to bear those burdens alone, because the reality is that day to day there are tasks that have to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Among them, what do you find, most challenging or the most hard for you to adjust with? And surprisingly, you, after realizing and making it good, what do you think it is?
So that's easy to answer. And it's the constant noise or the constant sound, whether you're outside or inside. When you're walking on the street, there's bikes, there's dogs, there's people. It's this constant information coming at you, this constant that you kind of have to ignore and put your blinders on. And I've noticed that when I go back to the US and I'm there for a bit of time, instead of having those blinders where I'm only looking at what's right ahead of me, I get to feel this sense of openness. Okay, now I can take in different sets of information. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, over time, it does wear on people. And I notice that if I'm in kind of the narrow streets of Patton for too long, I start to feel very, very tense in my shoulders. And kind of once I get home, it's like this big, not just sigh of relief that I'm home, but it's this like, oh, okay, I can leave out that and now find a bit more peace in my daily life. My parents, for their first time, even though I've been coming in and out of Nepal for 10 years, they came in January. And for them, being on the streets was just constantly like, I feel like that they had that face the whole time they were there, of the cars, the bikes, the lack of sidewalks. Yeah. So I feel just kind of navigating the daily path that you have to go. It actually ends up over time kind of draining your energy.
Yeah. Along with that, I'd like to add, how do people here in Nepal see you? Like, while doing your research, I came to know that, you are called Seto Buhari, right? Is it the correct word?
Yes, it works.
Yes. So people looking at you differently, right? Not the same as them. What do you see the major, factor? What is, lacking or or might be, seeing you as a different person. Do you think it would be, adding value to the personality that you have, or either anything? Yeah.
So it's difficult to be white and talk about race because, first and foremost, race is a made up thing by white people to categorize people other than them and to make them seem less than them. But being white in a country that already has skin tone based prejudices, right? If you are lighter skin versus if you are darker skin, I see on I think this is more of an Indian thing, kind of when you see the advertisements for wives or, son-in-laws, it always describes a type of skin tone, right? Wheatish. There's an entire vocabulary to define the variety of skin tones that you can find in kind of the South Asian subcontinent. So as someone with very light skin coming into that, I've had people hold their arms up against me to compare. I've had someone point at their darker skin and call themselves African while I'm American. So it's very interesting for the first time in my life to become a racialized body, because in the US, being white, you can easily go through your whole life and never, ever come face to face with your race. Perhaps you read some books, especially in like 2020 when kind of the Black Lives Matter movement really picked up in the US. I saw a lot of white people who had always been privileged actually really start to understand that privilege and really understand, okay, white also is a race, but then also all races are not real from a kind of DNA point of view. So to come here and really be forced into that white body and seen as pretty, rich, and privileged, which, I think that there's probably some meaning behind those ideals. But at the same time, it's very frustrating to be reduced to white girl. And when I talk about this with people who don't know me, they immediately kind of look back at my own country and say, well, you can say this here, but people who are immigrants in the US can't say it there. And I think that this is such an interesting conversation to dive into, not to make it too academic, but Paulo Freire, who is a Brazilian theorist I use in my own work, he talks about how overcoming oppression, it can't just be the oppressed themselves who challenge the systems. The oppressors, the people with privilege, themselves need to question, why is the system built this way? Why am I myself privileging from that system? And grow their own consciousness. So I think by being this white person, being this white body, if I'm not comfortable talking about race, then it would be very easy for me to go through my whole life and just kind of sit in my privilege.
Exactly.
So I think when I bring up race and experiences of racism that I've had in Nepal, people kind of think, how dare you talk about this? But I'm hoping that by being willing to have this conversation here, I can create a space for people who are experiencing racism in much worse contexts, actually violent contexts, or, where their body is actually under attack. The conversation has to start somewhere, and I am more than willing to offer my experience for other people to reflect on theirs, right? Being a brown or black body in the US, being a white body in Nepal, they look different, but actually the experience, if you're willing to empathize, can become an amazing moment for connection and collaborative change.
Exactly. Thank you for addressing this, because this is something which have created a space of uncomfortable environment wherever you are, whatever you are. Racism is the topic that you are facing, being a brown skin and being in America. It's like brown and white, like black skin, it's like a tough thing for us. And being here and seeing you as a privilege is still the feelings and connection that you develop with the like people over here in Nepal. Somehow it aligns, right? It's all about being feeling the different, like seeing the differences.
Absolutely.
With
And we're
what you
so
are.
much more than that. We're so much
Yes.
more than whatever we are in
Exactly.
our body. And, I think when people hear me talk about racism, they want to just really kind of reduce that. And I know it's this racism with privilege. It's not, like I said, racism with violence. And I think if everyone is willing to join in the conversation around it and see all these multifaceted, I'm not talking about reverse racism. That's such kind of a silly term, but it's something that everyone needs to realize in their own life. It was so interesting. Like I said, my parents came, and it was probably the first time in their life that they were in a minority group, right?
Okay.
And it was amazing for them. Again, they're old white people who have read a lot of books about race and anti-racism, but for them to actually be in a racialized body for the first time, I think it changed their mind, which at 65 to change someone's mind is actually, I think, a pretty amazing feat.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So now let's go into your PhD. Okay. So once you were here in Nepal, right? It was in your bachelor's thesis, which was back in 2013, right? 15, yeah. You were back then. Then, after completing your bachelor's thesis, once you go back in Cambridge and complete your master's, then why did you choose Nepal after that? What do you feel like you after being here in Nepal and contributing in your research? How would it help? What was your thought on that?
So, like I said, when I was here in 2015, the earthquake just happened. And the best thing I could offer this country was leaving, not taking resources, not taking people's time, just to get out and allow people with the skills and knowledge to rebuild their own country. Yet at the same time, recognizing, okay, I had very little to offer in April 2015, I still felt this sense of wanting to do something, to give back in some capacity. And that was what really inspired me to go for my master's thesis on youth-led recovery and response to the earthquake, which was a really fun project to do. Although it was during COVID and I couldn't be here, I used social media data to show the way that young people were able to act very quickly and actually at a national reach, as we see a lot of the Kathmandu-based youth-led organizations, whether NGOs, CSOs, they have either local members in different districts, they have folks who are from those places, they have people who had come to Kathmandu for a period of time and then went to a new place. So after the earthquake, they were able to really utilize that nationwide network and get materials to places that other humanitarian efforts were not reaching. So I loved that project, but still by the end of it, I felt actually quite similar. Again, I wasn't here. I didn't develop the relationships through the project that I hoped to because of COVID. And just how I was feeling as a 20-year-old of, oh, there's so little I can do right now. I felt that kind of after my master's, but slowly I was gaining knowledge. And again, that kind of dissatisfaction was what led me to my doctoral research, which I did get to come back here. I'm still looking at youth organizations and youth civil society here in Kathmandu, but more from an internal perspective, not so much what they offer society, but actually how they themselves create a different culture of being young and connecting with each other. And even though that project now is finished, and again, I feel like I've found these findings to share, I still feel like a sense of dissatisfaction of what I can offer the country, which I think, again, being a foreigner, being a white person, if I sat in front of this mic and said, oh my gosh, I'm going to change Nepal, here's my knowledge here, you're welcome, it would be this absolute horrible thing to do, right?
Exactly.
Completely not recognizing, again, my privilege, my position, my lack of really, really nuanced understanding of the culture and everything that comes from, a lifetime, if not multiple, spent here. So I'm very, very wary of probably what I can offer is about this big. Maybe it can be this big, So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that might be.
Yeah. While you are explaining all of this, I was feeling, how did you even feel of, start developing the feel of giving to this country? Like, what made you feel that? Because I am going off track now, but still I want to add this because I am curious. Later on, we will again go back to your PhD. But before that, I would like to ask you, like, how did you feel it? Like, to give this country, why do you feel?
Well, I think I can answer that in a couple different ways. Being in Nepal when I was 20, it hit me in a way that I don't think I expected. So kind of in thanks for giving me this amazing experience, and thanks for allowing me to be in Mustang and Solokhumbu and these incredible places and see the things I saw, I think from a very simple level, it was, okay, thank you so much for just being a beautiful country. But I think there's also kind of a shared dynamic there. When you're 20, when you're 25, you feel like you can do anything. You feel like you can have this positive mark on the world. And I think that's why I have been so dedicated to youth issues, because I feel like there's this power among young people in Nepal, in the US, everywhere. They haven't yet been disenchanted by like the realities of a hard life, but they just want to do good. They want to work in a way that will benefit others. And I think I've felt that. And I think as I've, gone through this process and I've started to engage with the systems, I maybe feel, okay, maybe I thought I could give a foot, and now it's slowly over time kind of narrowing down. And like I said, maybe I can only give this much. And maybe I can only give that much to the people I directly work with, right? Like I said, I have this amazing community here. So maybe that's it. Maybe all I had to do was the 15, 20 people in my life who I've given love to. Maybe that's all I can offer. And maybe in 30, 40 years, when I look back, I'll be really, really happy with that. But right now I'm not so happy with that. I still kind of have that youthful, like, no, I have to do more. I have to give more. I have to share
Youth
what I've
blood,
learned.
yeah.
Yeah, that youth power. That was the
Yeah.
title of my master's thesis. It was Nepali youth power. So still feeling a little bit of that power. I'm not totally jaded yet.
Okay, Phoenix, I would like to, talk about what can the, Nepal teach the world, or old can teach the Nepal, or in context of potential of Nepal through the youth's eyes. What do you think it is?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things that I think everyone can learn from each other, no matter where you're from, even if you're from the same place. If you're able to share your thoughts, your feelings, I think we can always learn from each other no matter what. I think something that I find really amazing in Nepal, specifically looking at, like I said, kind of the culture that young people create when they have a space to themselves, is the type of relationships people develop. So let's say you and I are colleagues, and our relationship is purely professional. I think that's kind of like the American way to do it. Perhaps once a month or once a quarter, we'll go for a office-sanctioned happy hour, and that's the most of our social relationship, but majority of the time we're colleagues. Within kind of the youth sector that I work in, it's like, okay, we're colleagues, but we're also friends. Or when we're in the office, we go to the kadzagar next door to have chow mein or momo. And it's kind of like the relationships itself cannot be singularly labeled. We're not just colleagues. We're not just friends. We're not just enemies even. I think that's such an amazing thing. And when you start to layer on Nepali society and look at caste and ethnicity and even age, which if we're going to talk about youth, you have to think about age because it's a quantified identity from what used to be 16 to 40, but in the last month or so has been capped at 35 years old. So we have these kind of external factors. And again, when you look at these youth to youth relationships, we know that they're there, right? If I know your last name, I probably know your caste. You look a little older or younger than me, so I probably know your age. But that doesn't really matter if you and I are able to talk openly and create a supportive environment, even if we don't necessarily disagree. But we can have that disagreement and afterwards still go out and get chia, afterwards still go out and get alu, and still have that kind of like fun relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what, motivates you just to name your thesis as Chiya Guff. If you will say this to normal Nepali people, they will think, okay, Chiya Guff, how could it be even a thesis? So what is Chiya Guff about?
I've written over 300 pages on Chiya Guff. My thesis is like 290 some pages. And they're all dedicated to Chiya Guff. And
is it completed?
It's 95% completed, let's say. Final edits, but Chiya Guff is not getting edited out.
Okay.
So when I first came here and I wanted to get a foot into the youth sector, fortunately, I was a youth, again, by a quantifiable age. So I kind of had this like open door, plus then adding the Cambridge label. It was like, oh yeah, of course we want her to come. But over time, I started to feel like those labels didn't matter, because what mattered was the relationship we were building, and how we were building that relationship was having just discussions. Not just about our daily life, but again, okay, Paulo Freire, what's his relevance in the education system? Okay, let's talk about the idea of agency. Having these kind of almost debates, which sometimes they can sound like arguments, but these really energetic debates over ideas of life and culture and gender and whatever else. And through that experience, not only did I come to value that experience for what it was, but I actually started to see it as a way that we're learning from each other. So the fancy word is pedagogy, which means kind of mode of teaching, right? Lecture is a pedagogy. Chiya Guff, I argue, is also a pedagogy. And when I tell Nepalese that I'm researching Chiya Guff, it's kind of like at first what you did of like, huh?
Really?
But then their eyes light up because it's something that they understand.
Exactly.
And being like, oh, Cambridge PhD, that sounds so heady. Mm-hmm. But when I say, no, my PhD is about Chiya Guff, that person, whoever I say that to, they can tell me about their experience doing Chiya Guff. They probably have done Chiya Guff within that day. Mm-hmm. So it's this amazing, again, way to connect. And, you can say I'm an insider outsider. I have one foot in Nepal, and then because of my own upbringing, I still have one foot out. But I actually think that that can be a superpower because, again, Nepalese do Chiya Guff every day, if not multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to them, maybe it's mundane, although they look forward to it and probably it's fun. But the value is just that moment. Having an outsider lens and coming into this without having any prior preconceived notion of what is the purpose of tea, what is the purpose of informal dialogue, I think I was really able to find this and celebrate it as something, not find it, but notice it as something very, very special.
Mm-hmm. So what's your major finding through Chiya Guff? Like there are many, I have, idea about it, but I would like you to point the few ones so that our audience will have idea about what Chiya Guff is.
Yeah. So I think you can kind of imagine it like a circle or like a ripple that kind of grows out. So the first one is seeing Chiya Guff as a way that people can come together. Mm-hmm. You and I can sit, we can learn, we can talk, we can exchange ideas.
It's not basically you have to have a cup of tea, right?
No, so you can have Hawa Guff if you want. You can have beer Guff if you want.
Guff?
Hawa Guff.
Okay.
But Hawa Guff is not so good because it just kind of evaporates.
Yeah.
Chiya Guff, because there is something that you are consuming. Again, it could be water, it could be beer. I don't really care. It's called Chiya Guff. We'll stick with it. There's something tangible. There is something consumable. And I think that that is very symbolic for the interaction itself. You and I talk. And it's not just after we talk, it's over. Okay, well, she brought up that idea. So, well, actually, maybe next week her and I can make that into something else. Chiya Guff becomes a bato. It becomes a pathway for action. Versus Hawa Guff, you just do it and then it's air, it's gone. So the first one is seeing Chiya Guff as a way to connect, as a way to make plans, and a way to execute those plans. So that's just Nepali Chiya Guff. Seeing that in the youth sector, you see it as this platform for young people to raise their voices ideas in ways that perhaps they can't otherwise. Now, you put a young person with an adult person together, it becomes an opportunity for intergenerational dialogue. Now, you put it in a classroom, it becomes an opportunity for the teacher and student to explore a new power dynamic. So you start from that very simple cup of tea, but when you start to spread out, I see all these ways in which Chiya Guff can really revise relationships of power.
Yes. Okay, so what's the plan for Chiya Guff in long term? Like, what's 5 years plan? Do you have, if you have any?
Oh my gosh. I would love to make a book about it. I would love to do more research. I would love to be in a school, and it's called action research, when you work with teachers through their daily kind of what they do to see, okay, what would actually a Chiya Guff classroom look like? In development, there's a lot of kind of events, panels, symposiums that are organized. I would love to those have more of kind of a true dialogue intention. So yeah, I have a lot of ideas for Chiya Guff. I think this is Chiya Guff, us sitting here having this podcast. I think that that's a great example. So I can see it in going in a lot of ways.
Okay. Good luck for Chiya Guff.
Thank you. Good luck for Chiya Guff.
You know what I'm thinking? I want to talk about research also with you, because the young people over here in Nepal have been conflicting with the ways of research. We can do one single podcast in research some other day, because today I don't think we'll be able to touch that. Later on we can do that. We can plan that. Before that, what I would like to still go on Chiya Guff, and I would like to talk about, what what are the possibilities that you have seen for the youth by your finding over here in Nepal, right? And if somebody is wanting to go abroad, right, out from Nepal, what do you think they can learn from your journey? If you could sit down and talk to them, what would you suggest?
So, to go back to what you were saying about research, during my fieldwork year when I was here, to have a degree of reciprocity, so again, a kind of a give and take, I held a bunch of research, kind of just facilitated sessions. Mostly they were very informal for people, young people mostly, to ask me questions. And I kind of heard what you said of, oh my God, research is so scary. We have these bachelor theses. We don't know what to do. How do we go about it? Research is this like big, scary word. And across those sessions, what I wanted to instill in the folks who participated is that you're already doing research in your daily life, right? The way that you ask questions and try to understand the answer, that's research, right? Since you were a baby, you were doing research to understand the patterns of life and respond to them. So I think research sounds so scary, but actually when you get down to it, there's a really amazing initiative from Martin Chowdhury about barefoot research, which kind of links into, you don't have to have kind of the fancy degree, the fancy libraries. If you are already a member of your community, if you have your feet on the ground there, then you already have the skills and knowledge to generate more skills and knowledge. So I think in terms of research, that it actually is not so scary. And once you try it and you make mistakes through it and you learn from it, it actually is a very, very fun thing to do. So simultaneously to, like I said, of kind of facilitating research sessions, for a period of time, I was in a college, mostly working with +2 students, but also occasionally bachelor students. And so almost daily, for probably the last 2 to 3 years, I have had some young Nepali come up to me and say, how do I go to America? How do I study abroad? And I always struggle to answer that, because I myself am a product of foreign education, right? Raised in the US, went to the UK. And that was very much a choice that I made with my parents. I wanted to experience a different lifestyle. I wanted to experience a different education system, because Cambridge, as well as Oxford, has a very different approach to pedagogy, to use that word that we introduced. I wanted that experience. I wanted to learn a new culture, not a new language, because both are English speaking. So I understand 110% why a young Nepali or a young person from any country is intrigued by somewhere else, right? The grass is always greener. Oh my gosh, in UK there's London. I want to ride the tube. Oh my gosh, in Australia I can go to the beaches after class. I am incredibly pro adventure, and I think foreign education can be an incredible adventure. What I'm a little bit wary of is this sense of have to. Like I said, for me, it was a choice. And I feel like a lot of young people, they don't feel that choice. I remember the first person I met, again, in like December 22. Oh, you're going to Australia. You must be so excited. No. And I didn't understand that at the time. And it's taken me a long time to understand why that person wasn't excited. Because perhaps they didn't have the choice. Perhaps the family expectations forced them. Perhaps the family economics forced them. Perhaps the reality of all my friends are gone, so why shouldn't I go too? And that kind of starts to make me very, very wary. And it's again about empathy, because now I myself am in a very similar position of choosing between kind of the lifestyle I like in Nepal, which I hear from a lot of young people. I love my Nepali culture. I love my momo. I love my family. But outside, there are more opportunities, right? I can earn more money. I can have, a different sense of freedom and independence. And I feel like now I'm weighing that decision for myself. So in a way, because I'm weighing that decision for myself, I find it very hard to give advice to other people. And rather, I just want to say I understand. And, my only hope is that people who are also making that decision as I am is to gather as much information as possible to feel like you're truly making an informed decision, right? How much is it going to cost? Who are my friends going to be? How often am I going to be able to visit my family if I do leave? So I think my advice is just know exactly the dynamics that you're choosing and what you're giving up as well.
Yes. That is wise, advice you could give to anyone. Being an American, being in the country right now and seeing the Gen Z protest 2025, yeah, I'd seen your TikTok post also while doing the research, and your video that was, so good, and people were reaching out. You were, mentioning the findings about the Gen Z protest regarding your feelings in it. So basically I would like you to address this to our audience about the findings that you felt in this Gen Z protest.
Sure. So to put a disclaimer, so my research was conducted in 2023 with youth. And at that time, based on the National Youth Policy, youth is an age between 16 and 40. Gen Z is a little bit different. So with regards to that, I feel like, okay, I might be quote unquote a youth expert, but I'm not necessarily a Gen Z expert. But at the same time, the patterns I've noticed in the past, I'm noticing again here. And the one that I think I'm most concerned about. So again, if youth is an age-defined group of 16 to 40, that's 42% of the population, right? That's a huge chunk of Nepalese. And by labeling them all youth, that presents this idea that they're all the same, which, as we know, Nepal is one of the most diverse countries, right? There's 30 million people, and over 125 languages are spoken. Over 140 different ethnic groups live in this country. So how can we say that 42% of the country are youth and that make them the same? It just absolutely doesn't make sense. And I see the same thing happening to the Gen Z movement. So again, like youth, it's an age-defined range from 13 to 28-year-olds. But the reality is that is, again, a huge percent of the population. There's no way that they all share the same hopes, dreams, ideas of who should be prime minister, should we have a monarchy or democracy? There's no way that group of people can agree, because even you and I as two people, we probably disagree on some things. I think we also agree on some, but,
yeah.
So it's absolutely unfair to present Gen Z as a homogenous group. Fortunately, I have seen some young leaders raising marginalized voices, yet say, coming from indigenous perspectives, coming from Dalit perspectives. But at the same time, I feel like those voices are only being heard by people who are willing to hear that. It hasn't quite made the mainstream. So I think my one call in the Gen Z movement is to not try to come off as a unified movement, actually to celebrate the variety that is in that movement and create a country that celebrates diversity, right? I think that's like an old time saying, which, maybe doesn't come from the best place. I think that was like under the Rajas or under the Ranas of, so it's like being careful with what you say, but at the same time, I think there could be a value in, okay, the Gen Zs, we have X number of languages represented, X number of ethnicities represented, and still we can work together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now again, I would like you to say something in Nepali just to, make it a bit,
the
good for
entertainment break.
yes, because we are talking about some heavy talk. So let's take a long breath and say something in Nepali. Okay, so Nepal is the home of my heart.
Okay, Miro mutu kogar Nepal ho.
Oh my God. So might be within 2 to 3 years we'll be able to do podcast in Nepali.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I hope so. So let's go to the reflection right now. I would like you to see your younger self, right? And, Phoenix when she is in 20 and thinking about settling down in Nepal, getting married over here, doing her thesis, doing her, PhD research, being with youths, making a family, planning to have a kids and raising, what would you have seen, by that lens? Yeah.
I think she would be somewhat surprised because, I think at that point, at any point in my life, I wasn't ever completely certain what I wanted to do. So I think she would be pleasantly surprised. Oh, that's what you chose and that's what's worked out for you. I think my younger self would be, again, ecstatic that I'm on this crazy adventure. I live in Nepal. I, ride on the back of motorbikes without a helmet all the time. Sorry, Mom. I think she would see it as again, kind of this amazing adventure. So I think, sometimes when I'm perhaps down or frustrated with, the little nitpicky things of life, I think it's a really good question because it's like, okay, you know what? I have achieved some of my goals. Of course, some of my goals I have not achieved and perhaps I won't achieve, and that's fine because when you're young you feel like, oh my gosh, there are so many options, so many things, and then as you grow up you start to feel that narrowing. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because now I feel like I have this really specialized knowledge. I feel like I have my niche. I feel like I said I have my community. And if you kind of think, oh, I want to do that and bounce all over the place, perhaps you lose kind of that depth that I feel like I have really accessed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think being here in Nepal or, or choosing to be in Nepal have changed you or shaped you as a different person than you used to be?
Absolutely. I think I'm learning to be patient, even though I'm still probably not very good at being patient. It's interesting. I feel like Nepalese are very, very emotional, but at the same time, very, very easygoing. So again, oh, I'm late, no problem. Oh, I have to cancel, no problem. So I'm figuring out for myself how that patience, where that patience can really be in my own life.
Okay, so what's the one dream, that you would like to see, in yourself when it comes to the relationship or Nepal, what's that dream that you would like to change? Yeah.
So the dream that I would love is, like I said, over the last few years, I've listened to so many young people tell me their stories, their goals, their ideas, their challenges. And I feel like I really want to be a conduit for that, right? Instead of just having people tell me and I put them in a piece of writing that then only goes to my university. Right now, I'm really imagining different ways in which I can kind of allow those stories to come out in new ways, be it podcast. I find podcasting amazing because in my own words, I can share my experience. I find visual things absolutely amazing, whether a coffee table book or something, because young people are so creative. Oh my gosh, the number of artists and poets I've interacted with. something like that allows the stories that I've heard to be heard by a bigger audience. I'm not exactly sure how to achieve that, and I don't think I alone can achieve that. So figuring out, again, my place in this bigger context of, okay, how can I support rather than kind of construct all on my own?
Okay. While talking to you, I am thinking, what might be the place for you, when it comes to calling home? If you close your eyes, where do you find your home?
I still see my home as my childhood home. If I close my eyes, I can picture kind of the grassy hill. We have woods, and my parents have these two kind of red lawn chairs up there. So if I really close my eyes, that's the view I see, which I think speaks to still feeling very connected to my own family, which I think I'm always very curious how other young women leave their families to go live with their husband's family. And now they have this new mom and they have to call their home their Maitigar rather than just their home. And I think, coming from a culture in which that's not the norm, I don't have to completely give up my natal life. I can still call my mom, my dad, my home, my home. So I really feel for other young women who, they themselves have to develop a whole new vocabulary to describe, the thing that matters really, really strongly to them. I don't think it's fair that men get to just maintain it and not experience that, because I think, again, it creates a moment for empathy and connection.
Yeah. Talking to you, Phoenix, I'm feeling like you're a deep and passionate person about life, people. So it feels so good talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would like to add up, what do you feel the difference between passion and purpose? Yeah.
This is something that I've thought a lot about throughout my doctorate, and something I say to people who also want to pursue doctorates is it has to be something that you're passionate about. You have to wake up in the morning and look forward to what it is you're doing. Okay, of course there's going to be hard days, take some times off, Saturdays, Sundays, but every day it has to have some sort of reason for you. And I think for me, this is something that I feel so deeply, and that emotionality actually becomes the purpose in and of itself. So passion is kind of, the energy behind it, but the purpose is where I actually put it. My purpose is the community that I'm so passionate about, supporting them in their own goals. My purpose is, like I said, creating some sort of platform for the people that I so deeply value can raise their voices on their own. So I see them as very much interconnected. Perhaps the passion is, the fuel, and the purpose is the engine to help drive everything forward.
Okay. Yes. So let's go to the reality story segment now. So here I will be asking you few questions which you have to answer in one word or one sentence. At least you can try. Yeah.
Okay.
What did you choose between Momo and burger?
Momo.
Okay. Which Momo would you like the best? Chicken, buff?
Definitely buff. The other Momo do not count as Momo.
Okay. Do you have any specific place that you love to eat Momo at?
The place that I love the best, and before I didn't really love Momo, I was kind of like, I don't get it. But the place that really convinced me, like, okay, Momo is something very special, is at Patandoka. I don't know the name of it, but it has the cold joel that you pour over the hot Momo.
Okay.
And that experience, that really, really
It's
did
like
it for
Joel
me.
Momo.
Yeah.
I guess so. So, is it Chiya coffee for you?
Coffee. Even though my whole PhD is about chia, you would think my answer would be chia, but I do love coffee.
Okay. How many cups of coffee do you have in a day?
Try not to have more than 2. Today I had 3 because I knew I had to be ready to talk.
Okay, that's our Christmas for you.
Tihar?
Mm-hmm.
Tihar's my favorite. I'll go Tihar.
What do you like most, from Tihar?
I feel like Tihar compared to Dasai is so much more peaceful. I love all the lights. I feel like there's not as much running around to do compared to Dasai. So I feel like it's more just about you and having time with your family and time to relax.
Okay. What is the best Nepali word that you remember and you keep on continuously saying?
Oh, this sounds so whiny. Kina! Whenever my husband does something and I'm just like, oh, Kina, why? Like,
Okay. Few more.
Oh, I love all of the kind of, I think they're called nepats. Like something something Ray. He said that Ray. Oh na. I love all the ways that Nepali language can like be flourished because you don't have that so much in English. You have different pronunciations, but you don't have like these little syllables that you get to add. Teta, all of these things that don't really mean anything, but they add to the language.
Yeah, it's so beautiful when you are saying this. Yeah. Okay. What one Nepali food would you like to cook for yourself?
Wow. I feel like I can cook an okay dal. So I can cook an okay dal. I can do the lentils.
Okay. Okay.
It's okay. It wouldn't be like super good, but I know how to cook dal. I can cook bhat. That's no problem.
Oh, you mean dal?
Dal.
Okay.
See, again, it for me, it's the does and the tus that really, my mouth just can't do those sounds. I would love to be able to make yomari because I am a Newari Buhari. And I found out last year at the Yomari Puja day with my family, I was like, oh, I really want to learn how to make the yomari. And my husband's like, no, everyone just buys it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You, of course, make the dough because that's just rice flour and water. But the insides, the kua, the chaku, people just buy it. And I'm like, no way. If we're going to raise a Newari kid one day, they have to know how to make it. So one day I'll learn how to make it, maybe.
then you shall not forget me to call, okay?
Sure. December come. Yomari Puja.
Okay. If you have to explain Kathmandu in one word, what would it be?
Just chaos in the best way possible. Just chaos. Everything all at once.
Love in Nepal feels like? Just complete this.
Commitment. Responsibility.
Mm-hmm. If you have to describe the finance in Nepal in one word, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one. Supported. Because a lot of people live with family, and if you're in a family of 8 people, not everyone has to be earning. So I do feel like finances here are very supported and very shared.
I would like you to explain the funniest mistake that you have made and make people laugh or yourself laugh.
I don't know if it's necessarily a mistake because I very much meant it. When I first met my husband's uncle, and at that time my Nepali was not very good. I was just kind of learning the basics, and to my husband, kind of on the side, at the time he was just like a boyfriend, but boyfriend is not a real word in Nepali language. I said something Timi. I used Timi. Timi. So, not the highest respectful of like you.
Timi, yeah.
Timi, like a name. And, I understand that in married life in Nepal, it's very common for the husband to refer to the wife as Timi, kind of that middle level you, and the wife will refer to her husband as Tapai. So the highest level of respect that you can give other than Hazur. So by me calling my, will one day be husband Timi, my uncle saw that as very disrespectful. And he was like, she doesn't know because she's foreign. So I'm going to explain to her, oh, no. When you refer to Kewal in the future, when he's your husband, you should use Tapai.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, ma Timi ho. Ooh, pani Timi ho. Okay. If I'm going to be Timi, if he's going to refer to me as Timi, then I'm going to refer to him as Timi. And I knew exactly what I meant to say as my feminist self. My uncle was like, no, she doesn't know what she just said. So he didn't really understand it. It didn't really create any sort of feminist learning. But to me, I was very, very proud of that.
Okay, so it's we can see the cultural differences, yeah.
And they're subtle. They're so subtle. You wouldn't think the way that I refer to you has, the really, really deep meaning. And at the same time, my husband's cousin, he said, when I talk to you in English, you feels very impolite. What can I call you instead of you? And I'm like, oh no, I'm just you. We just have one you. So
Tapai Hazur.
But he thought it just sounds too informal. But I'm like, nope, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, in English and in American cultures, there's other ways to show respect. It doesn't have to just come through language.
Yeah, true. I would like you to sing Nepali song.
Oh my gosh.
I learned that you have, memorized lots of Nepali song. I know that. Which one is your favorite? I guess you have many, but
Yes.
at least.
When I first came here and started to learn Nepali, I realized that music can actually be really very helpful. When I first heard Nepali, I had a really hard time knowing where the word breaks were. The syllables all kind of end in like nas or e's, and I didn't know where the words were. So then I started listening to Sajan Rajvaidya and kind of these like kroners who really, make their words kind of long. And I started to hear, oh, that's a different word. Oh, that's a different word. Oh, muskan. Oh, okay, sapana. Oh, okay, now I understood those words. I love when people sing in both Nepali and English. I feel like that really helps. And actually, there's this one white guy who sings in Nepali, and he's very, very amazing. His name's Lil Bird. I would love it if he followed me on Instagram, because I follow him on Instagram. But he sings amazing Nepali, because for him, like me, Nepal means so much to him. And so to be able to sing it and express in this language, it's more than just the word, and it's more than just the lyrics. But he has a few different songs. One is like Vibe Ma Vibrate. And how does it go? Vibe Ma Vibrate. In the vibes I vibrate is essentially. And he says like, Bike ma ho to me love it na I. We're going to go on the bike and we're going to meet. Like, oh, it's amazing.
What about you? If you could sing Sajan Rajvaidya song?
Oh, I don't know any Sajan Rajvaidya. I just know the feel of his songs.
Okay.
Yeah, if you printed me lyrics, I would have a lot
next
more.
time we can do
Next
that.
Next time we'll have karaoke.
Yes, we will. Okay, so we are almost at the end of our today's episode, but still I would like to, ask you the last question, where I would like you to say one sentence, of Nepal, explaining it to your friend or family, in your country. What would you like to say? What Nepal is?
Oh my gosh. Nepal is this incredible country full of individuals who are completely willing to come together, and whatever sacrifices they have to mean for the common good, they will make those sacrifices. It's amazing, kind of the cohesive nature, the willingness to put aside my needs for our needs.
Thank you so much, Phoenix, for your today's time. I hope we had very good conversation. I believe that rest is in our audience. Yeah. So, and I would like to thank you for being so, outspoken, right? And being an American also, living in Nepal and understanding the Nepalese culture, understanding the people here, and being in a family and knowing the values and cultures and everything. I would like to thank you for that also.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak a little bit deeper about some of the issues and experience that I've had that I really, really care about, and hope that other people can connect with them as well.
Yes. Thank you so much.
See
you soon. What Phoenix shared us today is not just the story of a foreigner living in Nepal. It's the story that should be heard louder to all the audience who is listening from each and every part of the world, because it's need to be heard, right? So I loved this conversation. I believe that you loved it too. And I would like to thank Phoenix for being such an open-hearted and speaking the truth that she felt. So, yes, in real story time, this is the magic. We do the magic. We do create the real stories of the person lives and what they have gone through. So thank you for watching today's episode. At the end, I would like to say, don't forget to share, subscribe, and like our channel, so it adds value, like I said in the beginning. So for today, Ms. Sujata Aryal would like to sign up along with my team with another guest in another episode. We will meet again. Thank you for today. Namaskar.